Andy Reid said earlier this week he was looking forward to football weather today at Arrowhead Stadium. Cold and windy was the forecast, and that's what we've got. That is the definition of a football guy. It's Chiefs and Raiders, and for the first time in a while, a game this late in the season has playoff implications for both teams. The Chiefs find themselves in familiar territory atop the AFC West, while the John Gruden-led Raiders are looking for their second winning season in the last 17 years, and they were on a roll up until last week, falling to the Jets by a score of 34-3. I am BJ Kissel, joined as always by Shawn Barber, and we're going to break all this down for you over the next 30 minutes. We're also here from NFL Network's James Palmer, and then David KOECHNER, actor, comedian, and longtime Chiefs fan from Tipton, Missouri. He's also going to stop by and join us, and then as always, Mitch Holtis will stop by and tell us a story. Shawn, I've got to ask you, because we all talk about the Chiefs-Raiders rivalry because of what people say. Yeah. You lived it. And I went back. I looked it up. 2003 in Oakland. We won 17-10, we as in the Chiefs. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, only multi-sack game of your career, and a forced fumble. If it's not that game, what is the best memory you have of putting the red and gold on and going up against the black and silver?
You wouldn't know it, but it is that game.
Okay.
Late in that game, the Raiders went to a max protection, or they thought they was going max protect. We was blitzing the Sam linebacker. I was playing the Sam, got on the line of scrimmage coming off the edge. I heard Rich Gannon, he called max, but the tight end didn't get the check. Tight end releases, they slide away. I come and cold cock Mr. Rich Gannon, put him out the game. Actually, the last game he played in.
That would have been in the jacked up segment that NFL.com used to have. They don't run that segment anymore.
Yeah, man.
But right now, the talk all week, Chiefs 7-4, Raiders 6-5. This game means a lot for both teams. And anytime Andy Reid's coming off a bye, you're going to hear the stat that we've heard every year he's been here. 17-3 right now, coming off a bye. And Shawn, when I had a chance to talk with Coach Reid on Monday, I asked him a question about how his week changes as far as his workflow during the week, depending upon when the bye falls. And you're a guy who you played for him, you've coached with him down in training camp, and I got to ask, because one of the guys that he gave credit to when I asked him how his workflow changed was Mike Frazier. Yes. Guy behind the scenes, he's the statistical analysis coordinator, and Coach Reid said nowadays that they've got so much information, and Mike does such a good job giving him the tendencies that during the bye week, he self-scouts. He's not necessarily looking towards Oakland. He's looking back at the numbers, the tendencies of what other teams are seeing that we're doing, and then he knows how to combat that, and that's a big reason I think that he's so good coming off the bye, is he knows what he's been doing, and he counteracts that.
Coaches in the NFL and the league, they have a system, and they get into a habit of certain downs and distances, liking certain plays, and even on defense, liking blitzes against certain down and distances. Yep. During your bye week, you have a chance to look at that, find out your tendencies, and find out how you're going to break them over the next few weeks, so that going into the playoffs, going into the late games of the seasons, it's not easy to defend you on the offense or defense. He does a great job of preparing, letting the guys get away enough to reset their minds and bodies for the football, but also as a team and an organization, having the play calling back to it's fresh and new, guys are excited. We got Pat Mahomes at the helm, so I know he's excited about the plays that are being called.
These fans are excited too. It doesn't matter if it's 34 degrees and windy, and the wind is going to be a storyline throughout this game. You're going to hear it on the broadcast. If you listen to Mitch Holtis, we're going to talk about it on the radio broadcast. The guys coming down now, we saw the kickers going after it earlier. The wind will be something that is talked about throughout this game, but what else has been talked about this week? Andy Reid, 6-0 at home against the Raiders in his career, and in those 6 games, the Raiders are the Raiders are averaging just 11 points per game.
Right.
And you get to December football, this is when we need to see the team trending upward. We saw it in Mexico. They took a step forward. The Raiders seemed like they took a step back last week in that 34-3 loss to the Jets.
Yeah, it's been tough for the Raiders because they've been riding that roller coaster up and down. I think Carr had one of his worst games of the season last week against the Jets. Yeah. But the Jets did exactly what everybody wants to. They took away the run game and made Derek Carr try to beat him, and he ended up getting benched. That's exactly what we want to do today. We want to take Jacobs out of the mix, take away the run, make him a one-phase team, make him try to beat us through the air, and then let's get after that quarterback.
And we're going to break that down, and we're going to get into all those storylines, all those stats. But first, let's send it to Matt McMullen right now, as he was with me at the officials meeting. He's got all the inactives for today's game.
Thanks, BJ. Well, the only real injury of note is Damian Williams. He missed all week with a rib injury, and he is inactive here today. So that means Darwin Thompson, the rookie out of Utah State, he is active here today for the 8th time this season. So excited to see what Thompson could do on this Chiefs offense with a new opportunity here today. Tyreek Hill will also be out there for the Chiefs this afternoon. Tyreek, of course, missed a bit of that Chargers game with a hamstring injury. He rested up over the bye, and he is active here this afternoon, ready to go, bolstering this Chiefs offense with one of the very most electric playmakers in the NFL. Defensively, Alex Okafor is back along the pass rush for the first time since Week 8 in the game against the Packers. Hurt his ankle in that game and has not played since, but he is active here today for the Chiefs, bolstering the pass rush. So really, aside from Williams, BJ, this is the healthiest this Chiefs team has been since Week 1, and considering the magnitude of this game, that's pretty big news. For the Raiders, the big news is Trent Brown is active here today for them. He practiced all week until Friday when he hurt his knee. He was questionable coming in, but he is active for them here today. He's the right tackle, pretty good player. The Raiders have given up the fewest sacks in the NFL this season, so even though he is out there for them, curious to see if Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Alex Okafor, those guys can bring the pass rush here today against Derek Carr and this Raiders offense. BJ, back to you.
Thanks, Matt. Shawn, you mentioned it earlier that Patrick Mahomes, he's always going to be the top storyline going to any game, but he's got the offensive line back. We saw them start to get their work back. Eric Fisher returned, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif returned down in Mexico. Yes. Now they got the bye week, get their legs back under them, get back into football shape, and get ready to go. But you look at that Week 2 matchup, Patrick Mahomes pressured just 8 times on 46 dropbacks, a big reason that he was able to deliver the ball down the field on passes beyond 20 yards in that Week 2 matchup. Mahomes was 7 of 11 for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. That wasn't just something that happened in Week 2. This has been an issue for the Raiders defense all year, giving up those chunk plays, and that was without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, late developing routes where receivers all release vertically and you think that they know who got who, and then later on 20, 30 yards down the field, when those guys crisscross, that's when the Raiders, that's been their Achilles heel all season. Yep. They either switch at the wrong times, don't stay with the right people, and they open up and uncover receivers late in the down, and that's Mahomes' strong point. Staying protected, buying an extra time, and having the vision and the arm strength, even with the win here today, to be able to drive the ball down the field. It's going to be big plays all day.
Yeah, Coach Reed mentioned it earlier. Paul Gunther, the Raiders defensive coordinator, loves to roll coverages. So he goes, there's going to be times where we have some plays that look really ugly, that they just roll it the right way and Pat doesn't see it. But then there's going to be times where we saw in the first game, DeMarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman got loose, that they roll it the wrong way, Pat sees it. They're going to get a chunk play and they're going to make big plays down the field. And one guy who throughout his career has made big plays down the field against the Raiders, and if he does it today, has a chance to make some NFL history, that is tight end Travis Kelce. We know he's had big games against the Raiders. You look at the last 3 games for Travis Kelce against the Raiders. He's averaging 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown in those 3 games. Shawn, if Travis Kelce gets 167 yards receiving today against the Raiders, he'll have 1,000 for the season. And that will make him the first tight end in NFL history to have 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. So when you talk about the first ever on something that there's not some weird, stipulation here. It's just 1,000 yards, 4 straight seasons. It's amazing, and it only tells you that Travis Kelce, we talk about every week, deserves to be in those conversations if he keeps this up, and he's been doing it consistently for a long time now.
Yeah, if he can be the first ever, man, he's been doing it at a top level. Everybody wants to bring up the comparison with him and Tony G. It's a whole different skill set. Kelce is just such an athlete, and what he's been able to do against this Raiders defense, any kind of cover 2 shell, any zone shell, he's an amazing tool to be using in the middle of the field. He can keep the sticks going, first down, touchdown, and that's what the Chiefs have been doing against this team better than anybody.
Yeah, and you go into these big division games right now, this is where you want your playmakers to step up. This is where your superstars, you lean on those guys. One of the guys the Chiefs could lean on today is running back LeSean McCoy. Matt mentioned it earlier, the running back Damian Williams is out with the rib issue that he dealt with, or that he suffered down when we were in Mexico City, so he's out. So it looks like LeSean McCoy, Darrell Williams, maybe we see a little bit of Darwin Thompson, the rookie 6th-round pick, who hasn't got a lot of run this year, but you look at LeSean McCoy, he was brought in for moments like this. You look at his stats and his resume, the most yards from scrimmage, the most touchdowns, and the most touches from scrimmage of any player in the NFL since 2009. And we gave him a rest game a few weeks ago for a situation like this where he's going to be counted upon, and he's got to go up there and make plays and get the running game going, because again, this wind out here in this cold is going to be an issue.
I think Andy has a big overall plan when it comes to who he uses, who he makes inactive, who he prepares to go week in and week out. It's a long-term scheme. And fans, we always want everybody up, everybody to go.
He's playing chess.
You can only activate so many guys. And so according to his game plan, what he wants to focus on that week is where he's going. Whether it's receiver strong, running back heavy, offensive defense, he does what he has to do to come in that week and get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the cool stats that I looked up that I found is that the Raiders defense has allowed over the last 3 weeks 136 yards per game on the ground on average. That's almost 5 yards a carry they're giving up. But they've only allowed one rush over 24 yards. So it's not like they had two 90-yard runs against them. It skewed all these numbers. Teams are consistently picking up chunks of yards against the Raiders defense on the ground. So we'll see if it happens today with LeSean McCoy. But right now, let's send it to Mitch Holtis, who's got a little story time for us going all the way back to 1991 in a special game for the Chiefs here at Arrowhead Stadium.
The cliche is beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Well, if you're looking for a lot of pretty in big Raiders-Chiefs game down through the years, particularly the most significant ones, you're going to have a hard time finding it. These have been hard-fought games, especially when it matters the most. An example of an ugly game that was absolutely beautiful to the Chiefs' kingdom at the time was December the 28th, 1991. Now get this, Arrowhead Stadium had been in existence for 20 seasons and had never hosted a playoff game. But Marty Schottenheimer's resurgent Kansas City Chiefs on that December day were hosting the Oakland Raiders in a wild card matchup. Oakland had some significant players. Tim Brown at wide receiver. Marcus Allen was still the feature running back for Oakland, and they had defensive back Ronnie Lott, who had moved over across the bay from San Francisco to play DB for the Raiders. The Chiefs were led by a rock-hard defense. The late Derek Thomas had a big sack, strip, that led to a Bill Moss fumble recovery in the first half. And Neil Smith had big plays in this game, including a late pressure on quarterback Todd Marinovich that forced Marinovich into a deadly pick. Speaking of picks, Marinovich threw 4 that day. Now, the Chiefs' offense couldn't do much either with the football, but it took a big defensive play that flipped the game. A tip pass went into the arms of DARREN, and the Chiefs' Hall of Famer ran the ball deep into Oakland territory. Steve DeBerg, with a great play-action fake, which was his trademark, was able to find Fred Jones in the back of the end zone for a short touchdown pass, the only touchdown of the game. The Raiders had opportunities. Marcus Allen had 16 playoff games in his Hall of Fame career. He only lost 2 fumbles, one in this game against the Chiefs. So it was a game marred by turnovers. It featured a lot of defense and not a lot of scoring, as Nick Lowry missed 2 field goals, but he hit a short field goal that ended up giving the Chiefs their 10-point total. Final score, the Chiefs 10, the Raiders 6. A so-called ugly playoff game, but it was beautiful to the eyes of Chiefs fans because Arrowhead Stadium, for the first time, got to taste the sweet nectar of a playoff victory, and it was against the Oakland Raiders.
All right, good stuff, Mitch. And with those 6 turnovers the Chiefs got in that 91 game, now we're going to turn it over to a guy that needs no introduction, actor, comedian, longtime Chiefs fan, hails from Tipton, Missouri. Mr. David KOECHNER joins us on Field Pass. We appreciate it.
I appreciate being here.
So you're gonna, before we ask about the game and all the other stuff, you're gonna get things started in the GEHA drum deck. How excited are you? You've done it before, but you haven't done it up there before.
It's an honor. My kids are here, so they get to watch. I'm so happy.
That's awesome.
Well, having the time to just talk to you real quick, I'm a fan of yours. A lot of the listeners who are streaming online and watching us on game day, they're a fan of yours. What is one of your favorite roles playing? If you talk about all the movies you've done, what is one of your favorite roles
That's
playing?
a tough one. Well, there's something from everything. So Anchorman obviously
That's the
is
one
huge.
everybody loves.
Extract's one of my favorites. Another one called Cheap Thrills, not for the kids. That's a great one. Right now I'm doing a television series on ABC called Bless This Mess. It's actually a great television show. You got to check that one out. What else? F is for Family, Bill Burr's animated series. There's almost too many to mention. American Dad.
I go back to Out Cold with Jacuzzi Casanova. Like, that's the one that I go back to.
We were both young then.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to ask, because you grew up in Missouri, grew up in Chiefs Kingdom, now you live out in California.
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask, because Andy Reid 21-5 against California AFC West teams. How much does that give you bragging rights around whether you're hanging out with Chargers or Raiders fans or just wearing Chiefs stuff around that you can puff your chest out a little bit?
You know, you don't have to puff your chest. You just say Chiefs, and they're like, okay. It's almost like you see the look on their face like, I know. So because I shoot our television show out in California, every Monday, I get to see a lot of Raiders fans like walk around like this. I'm like, it's so bad, I don't even put it on them. You know, it's so bad, I don't even brag. I was like, you see the game? They're like, yeah. It's like, oh, you guys had a good first quarter? Yeah. Anyway.
Well, they understand how the rivalry is. It goes back and forth.
Yes.
Having Pat Mahomes as being the quarterback of this team for the foreseeable future, how exciting it is to be whether you're a celebrity or not, just being a Chiefs fan with our organization where we're trending.
I love it.
Yes,
I love
sir.
it so much. As much as America does not like the Patriots, we can only assume that in 10 years, for the next 10 years, they're going to feel the same way about the Chiefs.
That's right.
But I think there's going to be more love for the Chiefs. Get on the bandwagon now, gang.
They're very lovable, just like this jacket. You wear it every time, and this just killing it.
It's a must.
With this jacket game. So before we let you go, you just mentioned Champ Kind earlier.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a pregame speech before we let you go? Last thing. As Champ Kind,
okay.
If you got to go in the locker room, Coach Reed, Dustin came over, was like, hey, come give us a speech. What would you say?
Hey, gang, Champ here. We know the Chiefs are going to win. Let's be courteous to the losers, the Raiders. It's already preordained. Now it's cold outside, but our hands and hearts are warm. Go Chiefs! Ahoo!
Perfect. That is David Koechner. We appreciate that right now.
I forgot one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Whammy! Go Chiefs! Whammy! Go Chiefs! Whammy!
There's nothing left to say except let's go to Matt McMullen, who's with NFL Network's James Palmer.
Thanks, BJ. Well, James, looking at how the Ravens and the Patriots have been playing lately, how important is this game for the Chiefs to show they're still trending upward and still are among those top teams in the AFC?
Well, first off, you look at the game, you better win because that's first place in your division, and obviously that should be your first, key to winning this game. But secondly, you're right, you want to stay on pace with two teams that I think everybody says right now are in their own group at the top of the AFC. Now, I think the point of coming out of your bye week is to see what adjustments you made, what you did to improve your team. I know Mahomes spent a lot of time at the facility by himself just kind of going over how he can get better. I think if they want to make that point, coming out of how you adjusted out of the bye week is going to prove to everyone that maybe you're headed in the right direction at the final stretch, which is huge.
Big-time game, like you said. In those kind of games, you need your big-time players to step up. What's the matchup on offense you like for the Chiefs here today?
Well, I think we're going to have a chance to see them run the football, something they haven't done a whole lot. I mean, there's only 4 teams in the league that have run the football less than the Chiefs, and I think we're going to get a chance to see maybe the importance of the late signing of LeSean McCoy. They've been really monitoring how much tread they put on those tires. We know the load management thing, and now Damian Williams. Can you run the ball effectively? We're talking here while our eyes are watering and the wind's whipping around here. Can Mahomes throw through that wind? And if he can, and that passing game's affected, can you run the football effectively? Because also we're talking about how do you show everybody what you're going to do down the stretch. Well, you'd like to show everybody you can run the football as well as passing it, because that's one part that's been lacking in this offense.
Definitely. And defensively, Frank Clark a few weeks ago against the Chargers showed why he's one of the best players at his position in the NFL. You think that was a sign of things to come for him?
I think the best part about it is it shows you that he's healthy, right? It's something that he's been battling, and I remember talking to him in the locker room after the loss to Tennessee and how bad that neck actually was and how concerned he was about it. I think when you see how well he played against the Chargers, you're seeing that he's healthy. And you know when he's healthy how dominant he can be and how well he can play. The other part of it is when he starts playing really well and he starts getting added attention, can somebody on the other side make an impact? Can pressure, who's in a one-on-one situation when he draws added attention, can go out there and get after the quarterback? Both of those hopefully can happen for the Chiefs, because one, that means he's playing well, and two, that means somebody else is stepping up at the same time.
Lastly, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your prediction for today's game.
Ooh, cold, windy. No, okay. Score. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs come out on top. I'm gonna go 27-21. It's gonna be a little closer than people might think.
All right, I like it. As long as we win, I'm happy. James, appreciate your time.
No time.
BJ, back to you.
Thanks, Matt. I always knew I liked James, picking the Chiefs to win. That's the guy. That's our guy. We like that when he does that. And, Shawn, I got to tell you, because one of my favorite things to do, whether it's talking with you or talking with Nick Leckie on In the Trenches podcast, talking with former players, is I look up all these stats. And I'm like, this is really interesting. And I tell you, it's like, is this real or not, or does this not matter at all? So I got one for you.
All right,
it's Derek Carr in the cold. So this came from Jack Del Rio, his former coach.
All right.
Derek Carr, when it's under 40 degrees at kickoff, he's 0-4, averaging just 152 yards a game, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks, and a quarterback rating of just 9.
All right.
Is 4 games enough, and does the cold weather make that big a deal?
Well, historically, he came from where? Fresno State. He's a warm weather college guy. He goes out to play at the Raiders. He's a warm weather pro guy. So obviously, when he gets cold, it's not in his comfort zone. He doesn't like the way his hands feel. He probably wears the sleeves and the gloves. It's something he's just not comfortable with. So those kind of statistics, I wouldn't go to sleep. Like I wouldn't sleep better because I know it, but it's something I want to recreate. And I definitely want to remind him about it very early in the game. Tight coverage, make him see if he can thread it. Don't just let him throw it deep down the field. See if he can keep it in front of you, thread the zone, and let's test his arm and his accuracy in the cold.
Let's see if Frank Clark can give him that message, because we saw last week, 2 weeks ago, down in Mexico, Frank Clark having a game, 7 pressures, 3 quarterback hits, a sack, a forced fumble, and a hit that led to an interception in that one. But if it's not Derek Carr, we know that the game's going to go into Josh Jacobs' hands. I don't know if there's a path for the Raiders to win this game that Josh Jacobs doesn't have a big game. Right now, he's 6th in the league in rushing, who's one of their top draft picks. He was 24th overall out of Alabama, and he needs just 43 yards to hit 1,000 for the season. But whether it's the offensive line or whether it's Jacobs, he's coming off a game where he didn't play all that well. And he had 10 carries against the Jets last week, just 34 yards. There's no doubt, based on the struggles the Chiefs have had at times against the run, and just coming off a bad performance, knowing that they're still 6-5 with playoffs in front of them, they want to establish the ground game in this weather. Everything fits to the Raiders, trying to establish running between the tackles.
What you'll know early is that Josh Jacobs, though he's had an exciting start to this year, he's still a rookie. And rookies face something called the rookie wall. It's a real deal. Your first year in the league, you're used to college season, 10 games, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of preseason, a post game, a bowl game. So your entire season is maybe 15 weeks. You come to the pros, you got 4 weeks of training camp, 4 preseason games. Now it's 16 weeks of the season. This is when you hit that wall and your body is used to shutting down. And you'll see rookies, they take a drastic decline after week 12.
We don't want to see that from the Chiefs, because we have head athletic trainer, the vice president of sports performance and medicine, Rick Burkholder, will not let that happen to our guys. He'll reverse it for our guys, absolutely. And one of the other guys, if it's not Josh Jacobs, if it is Derek Carr throwing the ball down the field, the one guy that he loves to throw to, targets, most receptions, yards, is Darren Waller. Converted tight end, converted to wide receiver, converted to tight end out of Georgia Tech, and this guy's been making plays all over the field.
He runs good routes, he gets vertical, he creates a target, he does a great job of uncovering against zone, and he has good hands. He's kind of a freak of nature type guy. He's a very athletic guy, can get down the field and find zones, and him and Carr have been working well together. Usually, it's more so the lack of his wide receivers having the ability to get open, and has forced him to go to Waller. Watch for Waller. I think Badger and Juan Thornhill, they have him targeted up, so we'll know where he is on every down.
Yeah, he's got 26 receptions over the last 3 weeks, and one of the guys that Derek Carr was starting to get really comfortable with for some of those checkdowns and shorter passes was Hunter Renfrow. And now he's out. He's not going to be playing the rest of the season with the rib injury and the punctured lung that he suffered in their game against the Jets. So expect to see a lot of Darren Waller or Jalen Richard, number 30, out of the backfield. They're very good. And John Gruden, for all the animated stuff that we see from Gruden, he's still a very creative play caller, and they find ways to get the ball to their playmakers, and they do a lot of good stuff with the screen game with Jalen Richard, getting quick passes, getting the ball out of Derek Carr's hands, something that he's known for. But when you look at the Chiefs defense, what we saw down in Mexico City, just from a big picture point of view, how confident, based on what you saw, are you that that's something that's them building towards something that they're starting to click?
All the time. When we talk about turnovers or what the defense wants, we don't want giveaways. We don't want to wait for a team to give us the ball. We want to take it away. It's getting pressure on the quarterback, stripping the ball, highest point picks. Those are times when the defense, we take the ball away. And that's what I've seen ever since that Minnesota game. It seemed like game after game, our defense is playing a lot more aggressively. Guys are actually purposely taking the ball away and getting the ball back for our offense. If we keep trending that way, I think that's what gets us going.
Awesome. Right now, we are going to switch gears, and we're going to do one of our favorite segments, Around the League, because there are some big-time football games going on right now, and one of them in Baltimore, and we were watching it earlier up in the press box. The weather's not too great there. It seems like it's cold, wet, rainy, the whole deal, but that was going to be a big-time football game between the San Francisco 49ers, the Ravens. Last I saw before we started the show, it was 17-17. It was tied going late into that game. Lamar Jackson already had 100 yards rushing. He only had, I think, 100 less than 100 yards passing, but he was getting it done on the ground. That is a big-time football game that Chiefs fans could kind of peek on if they're looking at some of those top seeds in the AFC.
Well, we know about the Ravens and the 49ers. They are both going to be in the mix come playoff time. So no matter who actually wins that game, they've both proven to be heavyweight contenders, and they'll be ready for the postseason.
Yeah, and Raheem Mostert, their running back for the San Francisco 49ers, had a touchdown, already 137 yards on the ground. Kyle Shanahan's gotten a lot of credit for his ability as a play caller, but a lot of times when you talk about play callers, it's designed in the passing game. He's phenomenal with the running game, with what they're able to do with their zone and their power and all the different ways that they scheme things up to get the mismatches, to get the numbers in their favor. That is a big-time one. And the other big-time game tonight is Sunday Night Football, and that is the New England Patriots at 10-1 traveling to take on the Houston Texans. That's big for Houston. They've got a one-game lead in that AFC South that has gotten very tight with the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. The biggest question, and I've been wrestling with this all week, who are we rooting for? Are we rooting for the Patriots? Are we rooting for the Texans? Because you can make arguments for both.
Hey, man, I got a little bit of Texans blood flowing through me. That was one of the 4 teams I played for, so I'm still going to be rooting for the Texans. I have no love for the Patriots. All right, those cheaters need to stay in New England. They had to take 2 planes because half of them are sick. So hopefully, whatever illness they got, they don't leave it in Houston. They take it back to Boston and get the rest of the team sick.
Well, I hope they don't play very well. I hope I hope that New England plays really well. They're feeling really good about themselves. They don't have this chip on their shoulder going back to Foxborough next week as they're taking on the Chiefs, and that is going to be a big one. But that one won't matter as much if the Chiefs don't take care of business tonight. And Shawn, the next segment, I know one of your favorites, and since we're getting near fantasy football playoffs, and we're not going to have Shawn sleepers this week, but we are going to talk a little strategy for playoffs. I know it's one of your favorite things, texting me at all different hours of the day saying random fantasy football things. Do you have a basic strategy going into the playoffs?
Late in the season, when you talk about playoff football, the one thing you have to worry about, the way they start structuring the games, pushing all the primetime games to the later slots, you always have to make sure you have a viable guy to go in. So at Kittle's, right, he's been facing some injuries. You got to make sure you have Dwally, the backup guy, just in case, or whoever the opponent is. Make sure it might be a Hollister, it might be an unknown tight end, but you can't leave an inactive guy in your lineup when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because some teams, like what the Denver Broncos are doing right now, if you have Courtland Sutton, how do you kind of plan? You don't know what Drew Lock's going to be. You don't know what his value is. You get into the playoffs, you don't know. The other question I want to ask you about is it's affecting here, and you see some of the other games. The Ravens-Niners game is one. How much do you take into consideration the weather? Are you going to bench a guy because you see that the weather's not good? Or for me personally, I do it. Elite players play. But if it's a questionable guy and the weather's good, I'll put him on my bench.
RB2, wide receiver 2, and any kind of tight end type flex. Your stud guys that got you there, you got to ride them because you never know when Julio Jones is going to have a big day. You never know when Tyreek Hill is going, Pat Mahomes is going to have a great day. But the fringe guys, the guys that are your RB2s and your wide receiver 2s, if they don't have great weather and you have another option that's playing in California in the sunny days, down in Miami and Jacksonville, you got to go with the weather.
All right, and now let's move on to our final segment and just close this show out and give you the final details of this one. And Shawn, the one that jumps out to me when I was doing this, we got kickoff in about 30 minutes, but you look at it, the Chiefs, this will be their 8th game out of 12 against teams with a winning record.
Yes.
So as much as we look at the records and the 1 seed, the 2 seed, are they going to get 3 seed, how are they looking at the division? The bottom line is this team is tested, they were injured. And they had a lot of injuries. They weathered that storm. They're getting those guys back, and they're going to be a better football team for it because they're not going to face anybody during the playoffs that's better than any of the teams that they faced during the regular season because they're the same teams. And they played them. They know what they're going to face, and they've been in all of the games. I know the stats are out there about Patrick Mahomes, and all of his starts has never lost the game by more than one possession. He's either won or his team has always been in it, which to me is an MVP.
Well, the keys to, like you're saying, to the way this season has gone is the injuries or the nicks happen early. We're able to withstand it, and we played quality teams all season long. So we are battle tested. If there's any team in the league that's battle tested, it's us. And now we're getting those guys back healthy. We're back to almost full strength as a squad. Going into the final weeks of the season, you want to have that momentum rolling into the playoffs. So that's what it is. It's about being hot and striking that match and making a run during the playoffs.
And we saw it in Mexico. The defense started to take a step forward. We're hoping to see the offense catch back up. We want to see a complete football game today. This one should be good. Little business to take care of. If you're sitting at home and you want to help out, one of the big things for today's game is the game City Year. The Chiefs have the 50-50 raffle, and you guys can get online. You get on the Chiefs app. You can go to Chiefs.com, and you can donate, be a part of that 50-50 raffle. 50% of the proceeds will go to City Year and all the work that they're doing with kids to give them the best opportunities possible. And for the first time this year, Pat Cockrell and the Cockrell Family Foundation have agreed to match the funds for the City Year, yes, which is a phenomenal thing. I know Chiefs President Mark Donovan is very involved with that, and that's a huge thing. That if you guys are sitting at home and you want to help, especially in this Thanksgiving, you get into Christmas time, I know that would be welcome. It's going towards a great cause. But Shawn, before we get into the my final closeout, what words of wisdom do you have for Chiefs fans sitting at home in the warm weather, in their warm houses with their cocoa and their chips and dip?
Hey, man, it's one thing to cheer for the Chiefs, but it's another thing to get outside. So get outside right now before kickoff. Once we close down Chiefs Field Pass, go out there in your pajamas and your socks. Wait until your hands and your fingers feel nice and numb. Your toes, you can't feel it no more. Be a part of this.
We're all in this together.
We're in this
I love
together,
it,
man. You want to be a part of this victory? Go outside in the cold, get a little numb, and then get back in there and get all cold and toasty and have some hot chocolate and be a part of this victory.
I love it. You just get so fired up. I absolutely love it. Now we're going to go, and this is it. So the game that can be found on CBS, it's the CBS One crew. It's Jim Nantz, it's Tony Romo, it is Tracy Wolfson on the sideline. After the game, make sure to tune in to Chiefs Rewind, where Mitch Holtis and this guy right here will break down, hopefully, a Chiefs victory. For Shawn and myself, along with Anna Topkin, Glenn Connolly, Andrew Sherry, John Williams, and everyone else behind the scenes that you didn't get a chance to see, thank you for watching and enjoy the game.